Hello, Nigerians. We really must appreciate you for joining us on this week's edition of our Current Affairs Personality Discussion Program on OGTV. The program is called Hot Seat. We really thank you for joining us this moment. Today, we've gone to look for another distinguished Nigerian, somebody who really can own his own among his peers, both locally and internationally. Our guest on the program this day is no other than the number one pen pusher in Nigeria and indeed the entire West African sub-region. I am talking of the national president of the Nigeria Union of Journalists, NUJ, who doubles as the president of the West African Journalists Association, Malam Garba Mohammed. Malam Mohammed, it's nice to have you with us.
It's my pleasure. Good evening.
Our guest, of course, is the one who calls the shot as far as journalism is concerned in this country and beyond. And he will be speaking to us in the next 50 minutes or thereabout as to what the core intentions of his administration, of course, are with respect to taking journalism as a practice, as a profession, to the next level, and indeed the entire West African sub-region. And so we urge you to sit back and listen to Malam Garba Mohammed, the national president of the Nigeria Union of Journalists, NUJ, who doubles as the president of the West African Journalists Association, WAJA. We thank you for your time with us. Traditionally on this program, Malam Garba Mohammed would take a peep into the background of our guests with respect to what they had been, what they intend to be.
Well, I think, let me start by saying that I'm from Kano State. I'm a graduate of history, political science. I have professional qualification in mass communication. I have my ND and HND in journalism. I started my journalism career with a print media, the Triumph newspapers, way back in 1988. I rose to the position of deputy editor and of course Sunday editor of that media organization. And I venture into NUJ politics right from my chapel, where I served as chairman of my chapel, then eventually two-term chairman of my state council of NUJ, which is Kano, and then deputy president of NUJ, and eventually in 2009 May election, I emerged as president of our great union, the NUJ. I was a press secretary to the deputy speaker of the House of Reps, press secretary to the deputy governor of Kano State. I contested an election in Bamako as president of West African Journalists Association, WAJA. I also contested an election in Morocco, where I emerged as member of the steering committee of Federation of African Journalists, FAJ. Presently, I'm the president of NUJ, as you said, president of WAJA, and member of the steering committee of Federation of African Journalists, FAJ.
So it can be readily established that all of your life has been journalism in terms of standard.
Yeah, you are right.
Now, the mission of the Nigeria Union of Journalists, of course, as we see on your side, certainly are listed. But most important of all such mission statements is the one that has to do with the intention or the readiness of the union to safeguard freedom of the press and ensure a suitable working environment for practicing journalists in Nigeria. The union has been in existence for so long. What has been the situation with respect to the enviable practice that you probably had been longing for right from the day one you came into the industry?
Well, I think to start with the issue of safety and protection of journalists across the world, not only in Nigeria, has been a global campaign. It has been a campaign right from the level of IFG, FAJ and WAJA and other unions in our various countries. And I know that a lot of sensitization and efforts were made to ensure that journalists are really protected. But unfortunately, if you analyze the increasing number of assaults, intimidation, killings of journalists, not only in Nigeria, but across the world, one may tend to say that the issue of safety and protection of journalists is really a very, very serious task for unions like NUJ, FAJ, and even WAJA. But I know that part of our own responsibility as leaders is one, to sensitize our colleagues, one, to be security conscious, is very, very important. And secondly, we have to also ensure that we report most of the cases of assault that are mentored on journalists in this country, which we are doing it. And then thirdly, we have to also try and investigate, where possible, such cases of intimidation, such cases of assault and killings of journalists that has been persistent in our system today. That, I believe, we are not able to achieve for one or two reasons. Secondly, first, we believe that we have not developed that relationship where we can liaise probably with the security agencies to embark on investigating cases of killings or assaults that are mentored of journalists.
Okay.
So the NUJ on our part, when we realize such incidences, because if you trace the history of killings of journalists, for instance, in Nigeria, right from in 1986 to the last one, the latest one, Mr. Akogu of the Channels newspaper, TV, sorry. There has never been a culprit. There has never been an individual that has been arrested, either by the police or by other security agencies. So we felt that the best way we can achieve that is for us to develop that relationship. And I want to say that so far we are trying to harmonize and enhance that working relationship, so that together with the security agencies we can get support from them, as well as also give them all the necessary support in our effort to expose such type of unfortunate incidences. But basically, as journalists, we believe that one of the securities which is required is to ensure that journalists are insured.
Okay.
The issue of insurance is very, very fundamental. That's why we had to introduce what we call the NUJ Personal Insurance Scheme, as well as engaged the management of various media organizations as it is now, to ensure that part of the condition of service for employment of any journalist in this country, the issue of insurance has to be clearly stated. That we have passed to the NPAN, who are the owners of mostly the print media, and of course, BON and other stakeholders in the media industry.
Okay.
But principally, the NUJ insurance scheme is a very, very important insurance scheme, because we try to encourage individual participation of journalists into the scheme. That's why we made the premium to be affordable, 6,750 naira. In case of death, which you know is inevitable, everybody will die with no notice, or accident, one or individual or family is entitled to 1.5 million naira.
In the case of death?
or accident.
Okay.
Yeah. And this we are able to justify. About 2 days ago, I had the privilege of, in company of His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Ondo State, to make a presentation of 1.5 million naira entitlement from the insurance to the widow of one of our colleagues who died in December last year in Akure, Ondo State. So I feel that NUJ insurance scheme is faster, is very effective, especially with the presentation of this entitlement to the widow of our colleague.
Okay.
Therefore, part of the security which you made mention is to ensure that no matter our attitude, we have this negative attitude towards insurance. So our own responsibility is to intensify the sensitization so that eventually my colleagues in the media industry will see reason and probably subscribe into this very, very important scheme.
All right, we'll get back to that insurance scheme which you have initiated towards making the environment more secure for operational persons as far as journalism is concerned. This profession of ours is often seen as one that allows for free entry and free exit. And this seemingly over the years had made it difficult for it to be effectively gate-kept with respect to professionalism. What's your take on this?
Well, people have been talking about entry point for journalism. And from experience and from all the effort we have made to ensure that we are able to address this issue, we felt that we still need a lot of cooperation, and principally from stakeholders in the media industry. There is no how we will achieve this without having the cooperation of, for instance, the owners of the media. Media, as you are aware, and going by the provision of the Constitution, is a business venture. Therefore, everybody who has the capacity can venture into that business. So it is a constitutional provision. And there is nowhere in the Constitution, NUJ or any other association for media has no power to prepare or arrange or agree on any entry point for our colleagues in the media industry. Because, as I said, it's a constitutional issue. But I know that there were efforts made by the union, the Journalism Enhancement Bill that was prepared by us in 2004 and was presented to the National Assembly. Unfortunately, because of the attitude of the owners of the media, it did not see the light of the day. And I know that there was also effort made by one of our own in the House of Reps, Honorable Abige Dabri, who amended some of the provision of the Media Enhancement Bill and represented it to the National Assembly. And that bill, as far as we are concerned, and if you read the whole content of the bill, you will realize that it has addressed all the issues probably which you have made mention. The issue of salary structure and condition of service for media workers has been seriously addressed. The issue of entry point, as you stated, the issue of insurance, the issue of non-payment of salaries, among others. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, because the owners of the media see it as a very serious challenge to it, they did everything possible to use our own members and denounced the bill that was passed to the National Assembly. And indeed, it is really unfortunate such bill were even supported by the Guild of Editors and quite a number of people. We felt that the bill is for their own interest and in fact is to improve their own profession. So that is the situation which we are today. But I want to assure you that from what we saw in the National Assembly today, especially the House of Reps, I was privileged to have attended public hearing when we had a problem with the Nation newspapers, when some of our colleagues were arrested from Lagos, if you remember vividly.
Very well.
There was a public hearing by the House of Reps Committee on Media and Publicity. I went there to represent the NUJ, and the IG, former IG of police was also there, and quite a number of others. I was indeed impressed with the number of journalists who have won elections, who are now members in the House of Reps. And if you critically analyze the submission of the committee with regards to the problem of the nation, for the first time, the House of Reps came out boldly and said the Inspector of General Police must apologize to the nation, which he did. And it is an indication that we are having more membership in the House of Reps. Quite a number of our colleagues are there. Therefore, their membership and their commitment further encourage us. And then we met, and I reported back to my National Executive Council meeting, and we decided that we are going to represent the Journalist Enhancement Bill back to National Assembly. As it is today, some of the colleagues in the legal profession and some senior colleagues are working on the bill. And what we intend to do this time around is to engage even the owners of the media, the NPAN, the Guild of Editors, and other stakeholders.
As well as
let's sit down and look at the bill, so that by the time we all agreed, we can send the bill back into the National Assembly. And I'm sure it will be easier for the members of the National Assembly to pass it into it. So I think that is the effort we are making at the union level to ensure that we address some of these problems.
Okay. Oftentimes, members of journalism, members of the fourth estate of the REM are regarded to actually be highly placed, coming next after the ones we call the judiciary. Of course, within the REMs, we have the executive, the legislature, the judiciary, and we are supposed, by what we have within societal arrangement, to be occupying the fourth estate of the REM, both in terms of standard, in terms of welfare package, in terms of relevance, in terms of societal placement. But what we have today in a country like Nigeria does appear to be a complete opposite of what should be the relevance of those who occupy the fourth estate of a REM within the Nigerian environment. I'm sure this also bothers you.
Well, in terms of relevance, I want to assure you, and I'm sure you know, that the media is very, very relevant.
And accorded due respect, dignity and honor as it should be.
Of course, not as it should be, but to some certain extent, there is no how, there is no system. Even those in authority, they are very much aware that without the media, there is no how the society will progress. So in terms of relevance, the media is very, very relevant. For instance, if you are talking of democracy, you know that it is the media that fought for democracy. Even when we are in the military era, it is the same media that fought seriously against military, against dictatorship. It is the media that liaised and collaborated with quite a number of civil society organizations to ensure that we have democracy. Now, as it is the same media that is seriously struggling to ensure the sustenance of democracy. So in terms of relevance, we are very, very relevant. But in terms of benefit, in terms of respect, I think that is where the problem is. And why we have such problem or challenge is because of the number of issues which you have made mention, some of which I said are really constitutional. If really today we will have a legislation that will clearly state that before you engage or embark in media business, there has to be amount of money, for instance, that we set aside for 1 year for the payment of salaries and other benefits that are entitled to all our colleagues. There has to be an effective insurance coverage for media workers and journalists in this country. There has to be a special salary structure and condition of service for media workers. I believe the respect will be there. But unfortunately, because of the problems which we have enumerated in the course of this program, it is virtually becoming a little bit difficult, even we as a union, to achieve this. But I want to believe that the way things are going in Nigeria today, and the way we are engaging both government and owners of the media to respect this profession, including our colleagues, the way and manner in which we are intensifying training for journalists to really understand the value of this profession and to be discharging their social responsibility according to the ethics of this profession. I strongly believe that in the near future we'll be able to achieve our dignity, we'll be able to improve on our condition of service, we'll be able to improve on the way and manner in which we operate and discharge our own social responsibility.
Now let's take a look at strict adherence or compliance to the Code of Ethics of the Nigeria Union of Journalists, NUJ. It is a known fact that every profession does have its own black sheep. The media profession cannot be exempted from such an ugly experience. How much of machinery do you have in place as the number one practitioner in Nigeria and indeed the West African sub-region to ensure that a greater percentage of your membership complies with your code of ethics? I am a practitioner, you are one, several thousands of others are within the Nigerian environment. We cannot just be talking about an enhanced environment without us also looking inwards towards ensuring full compliance to ethical standards.
Of course, what we are trying to do precisely is to ensure that we still engage the owners of the media by ensuring that, one, we exposed all our colleagues in the media profession to read and understand the ethics of journalism profession. In fact, what we are doing at the moment is even to go down to training institution for journalism like polytechnics and other professional institutions and universities where they are offering mass communication. We have distributed quite a number of ethics of journalism, code of conduct, to those who are undergoing mass communication, so that before they even practice, they will know that this profession, one, is noble profession, and it is guided by the ethics, and these are the ethics and these are the conditions that you're supposed to strictly abide by as a journalist. And then for our colleagues who are practicing, we are also engaging them. Quite a number of them have not even known, they have not seen the code. That's why as we move, we distribute the code. We try to engage them on seminars and symposium to understand the code of conduct for practicing journalists. And if you look at the provision of the Constitution of NUJ, there are areas that provide for discipline for any erring member of journalists. We have suspended quite a number of people because of unethical practices in this country. We have suspended quite a number of officers of the union because of unethical practices in Nigeria. So if we have an information of professional misconduct or abuse of privileges coming to us, we have a committee, ethics and disciplinary committee. We have it at the National Secretariat of NUJ. We have it in all the state councils of the NUJ. Even at chapel level, we have such a committee But unfortunately, even if you are sanctioned by the committee, it depends on your own media organization. We'll try, we as a union, you will not benefit, you will not engage in our activities, you will not be part of us. And it has been very, very effective, especially in most of our correspondent chapels where we have problems. But unfortunately, we as a union, we don't have the power.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, does the NUJ have the enablement in terms of constitutional provisions, in terms of the powers to actually have these disciplines enforced? Because if you look at sister organizations, first let me ask you, are we more of a professional body or a union?
Well, we have dual membership. We have dual status. NUJ is both professional and industrial union. And I want to believe that it is indeed an advantage to us, because if you look at professional associations, for instance, you cannot negotiate for salaries and condition of service. If I ask you now how much is the salary of a lawyer in a government organization, I'm sure you may not know, and even if you know, you will be disappointed. They are the least paid. That's the truth. And have you ever had NBA negotiating for salary? But NUJ, the fact that we are trade union, that's why today we are talking of special salary structure and condition of service. That's why today we urge government and owners of the media, we need an increment in weighing allowances. We need an increment in hazard allowances and what have you. So, how many unions or associations in Nigeria today that have dual status? I think we are only 3 or 4. And the structure of NUJ is the same with the structure of NUJ in UK. It's the same structure. It has dual purposes. When I came on board as president of NUJ, because of the argument that we have to be professionals, I took time, by virtue of my position as member of the steering committee of FAJ, I went to UK. I studied the constitution of NUJ in UK. I tried to compare. That's why we had to amend the constitution based on the little experience which we had. So actually it has a lot of advantage. And NUJ is already registered. So by the time you are going back as professional, purely 100% professional, you are going to lose your registration. So it's a problem. So the best thing we could do, of course, we don't have power to instill, not even to instill discipline, but we can do that, because we can say you are not a member, but we cannot say you cannot practice. But if there is that relationship and respect, mutual understanding between owners of the media and the NUJ, which we are now trying to calculate, and of course, if the Journalist Enhancement Bill is approved by the National Assembly, NUJ will have such power. That's why the owners of the media kicked against it. So we are now trying to